Good morning, guys. Happy Friday. How are you doing today? How are you guys doing today? So, our proverb for today is Proverbs 16:33. It says, "The lot is cast into the lap, but its every decision is from the Lord." Okay, let's get into the reading. Okay, guys. So yesterday we talked a lot about We talked okay, there it is. Okay. We talked a lot about words of affirmation, and for some odd reason I did not see these 2 pages. I don't know, like I guess I double flipped. It was like an honest mistake. I guess I did like this. I don't know, but yesterday the Lord told me to open the book back to where I had the bookmark, which was on quality time, which we'll be talking about today. And I noticed that I didn't read this, and I was like, how did I skip this? Because usually try to read every page. So what I'm going to do is, for this video, before we get into number 2, quality time, we're going to read this. If your spouse's love language is words of affirmation, these 8 things. And guys, what I'm going to do, because I noticed that quality time is going to go from page 54, let me tell you guys, to page 72. So that's page 54 to 72. So it's kind of a little bit more lengthier than the first beginning chapters, even though we're on chapter 5. So what I'm going to do for today is I'm going to read as much as it'll allow me, and whatever we don't get a chance to finish today, I'm going to try to be back on tomorrow morning and finish reading quality time with you guys, as well as sorry guys about the notifications, as well as love language number 3, receiving gifts. Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys know that. But let's jump into this. Okay, if your spouse's love language is words of affirmation, number 1, to remind yourself that words of affirmation is your spouse's primary love language, print the following on the card and put it on the mirror or other place where you will see it daily. Words are important. Words are important. Words are important. Number 2, for 1 week, keep a written record of all the words of affirmation you give your spouse each day. You might be surprised how well or how poorly you are speaking words of affirmation. Number 3, set a goal to give your spouse a different compliment each day for 1 month. If an apple a day keeps the doctor away, maybe a compliment a day will keep the counselor away. You may want to record these compliments also, so you will not duplicate the statements. Guys, give me a second. I'm getting text messages. I'm getting emails. Things I haven't seen from last night I'm getting. So let me put the phone on Do Not Disturb, because when I'm doing these videos, I like to stay focused and just pour into you guys. So give me 1 second. Okay, guys, and keep in mind with these videos, I'm recording them very early in the morning, like maybe 5 to 6 hours or 3 hours before you guys are getting them. So it takes a while sometimes to process and upload, but I'm being committed, guys. So you may want to record these compliments also, so you will not duplicate the statements. Okay, number 4, learn to say I love you or other expressions of affirmation in a couple of different languages. 5, compliment your spouse in the presence of his parents or friends. You will get double credit. Your spouse will feel loved, and the parents will feel lucky to have such a great son-in-law or daughter-in-law. Now, as Christians, we don't believe in luck, but, I understand what he's saying in this compliment. In this context. Pretty much like blessed, So, 6, look for your spouse's scrums and tell her how much you appreciate those scrums. Be specific. I like how you reach out to people at church who don't seem to have anyone to talk to, or you're really keeping up with the job search. I know it'll pay off. Okay, here's number 7. Occasionally email or text a note of affirmation during the day or when one of you is traveling, or if you know your spouse is having a hard time, send a link to a funny website. 8, thank your mate for something they do routinely and wouldn't expect to be complimented for. Okay, now we're on quality time. So this is love language number 2, quality time, chapter 5. And for you reading along in the book, this is page 55. So I should have picked up on Andrea's primary love language from the beginning. What was she saying on that spring night when I visited her and Mark in Little Rock? Mark doesn't spend any time with me. What good are all our things if we don't ever enjoy them together? What was her desire? Quality time with Mark. She wanted his attention. She wanted him to focus on her, to give her time to do things with her. By quality time, I mean giving someone your undivided attention. I don't mean sitting on the couch watching television together. When you spend time that way, Netflix or HBO has your attention, not your spouse. What I mean is sitting on the couch with the TV off, looking at each other and talking. Devices put away, giving each other your undivided attention. It means taking a walk, just the two of you, or going out to eat and looking at each other and talking. Time is a precious commodity. We all have multiple demands on our time, yet each of us has the exact same hours in a day. We can make the most of those hours by committing some of them to our spouse. If your mate's primary love language is quality time, she simply wants you, being with her, spending time, provided it's the right kind of time. Have you ever noticed that in a restaurant, you can almost always tell the difference between a dating couple and a married couple? Dating couples look at each other and talk. Married couples sit there and gaze around the restaurant. You'd think they went there to eat. When I sit with my wife and give her 20 minutes of my undivided attention, and she does the same for me, we are giving each other 20 minutes of life. We will never have those 20 minutes again. We are giving our lives to each other. It is a powerful emotional communicator of love. One medicine cannot cure all diseases. In my advice to Andrea and Mark, I made a serious mistake. I assumed that words of affirmation would mean as much to her as they would to him. I had hoped that if each of them would give adequate verbal affirmation, the emotional climate would change and both of them would begin to feel loved. It worked for Mark. He began to feel more positive about Andrea, sensing her genuine appreciation for his hard work, but it had not worked as well for Andrea because words of affirmation was not her primary love language. Her language was quality time. I called Mark, who told me Andrea was still not very happy. I think I know why, I said. The problem is that I suggested the wrong love language. A second, guys. My light. Okay. Mark hadn't the foggiest idea what I meant. I explained that what makes one person feel loved emotionally is not always the thing that makes another person feel loved emotionally. He agreed that his language was words of affirmation. He told me how much that had meant to him as a boy and how good he felt when his wife expressed appreciation for the things he did. I explained that Andrea's language was not words of affirmation, but quality time. I explained the concept of giving someone your undivided attention, not talking to her while you watch sports or read text, but looking into her eyes, giving her your full attention, doing something with her that she enjoys doing and doing it wholeheartedly, like going to the symphony with her. He said, I could tell the lights were coming on in Little Rock. Dr. Chapman, that's what she has always complained about. I didn't do things with her. I didn't spend any time with her. She'd always say, we used to go places and do things before we were married, but now you're too busy. That's her love language, all right. No question about it. But what am I going to do? My job is so demanding. Tell me about it, I said. And this little bubble says she doesn't really hate your job. She hates the fact that she feels so little love coming from you. Okay, so tell me about it, I said. For the next 10 minutes, he gave me the history of his climb up the organizational ladder, of how hard he had worked and how proud he was of his accomplishments. He told me of his dreams for the future and that he knew that within the next 5 years, he would be where he wanted to be. Do you want to be there alone, or do you want to be there with Andrea and the children? I asked. I want her to be with me, Dr. Chapman. I want her to enjoy it with me. That's why it always hurts so much when she criticizes me for spending time on the job. I am doing it for us. I wanted her to be a part of it, but she's always so negative. Are you beginning to see why she was so negative, Mark? I asked. Her love language is quality time. You have given her so little time that her love tank is empty. She doesn't feel secure in your love. Therefore, she has lashed out at what was taking your time in her mind, your job. She doesn't really hate your job. She hates the fact that she feels so little love coming from you. There's only one answer, Mark, and it's costly. You have to make time for Andrea. You have to love her in the right love language. I know you are right, Dr. Chapman. Where do I begin? I asked Mark if he had his legal pad handy, the same pad on which he had listed positive things about Andrea. It's right here. Good. We're going to make another list. What are some things that you know Andrea would like you to do with her? Things she has mentioned through the years. Here's Mark's list. Spend a weekend in the mountains, sometimes with the kids and sometimes just the two of us. Meet her for lunch at a nice restaurant or sometimes just at Panera. When I come home at night, sit down and talk with her about my day and listen as she tells me about her day. She doesn't want me to watch TV while we are trying to talk. Spend time talking with the children about their school experiences. Spend time playing games with the children. Go on a picnic with her and the kids on Saturday and don't complain about the ants and the flies. Take a vacation with the family at least once a year. Go walking with her and talk as we walk. When Mark's list was finished, I said, "You know what I'm going to suggest, don't you, Mark?" "Do them," he said. "That's right, one a week for the next 2 months. Where will you find the time? You will make it. You are a wise man." I continued. "You would not be where you are if you were not a good decision maker. You have the ability to plan your life and to include Andrea in your plans." "I know," he said. "I can do it." And Mark, this does not have to diminish your vocational goals. It just means that when you get to the top, Andrea and the children will be with you. "That's what I want more than anything," Mark said with feeling. "The years have come and gone. Andrea and Mark have had ups and downs, but the important thing is that they have done it all together. The children have left the nest, and Mark and Andrea agree that these are their best years ever. Mark has become an avid symphony fan, and Andrea has made an unending list in her legal pad of things she appreciates about Mark. He never tires of hearing them." Focused attention. It isn't enough to just be in the same room with someone. A key ingredient in giving your spouse quality time is giving them focused attention, especially in this era of many distractions. When a father is sitting on the floor rolling a ball to his 2-year-old, his attention is not focused on the ball but on his child. For that brief moment, however long it lasts, they are together. If, however, the father is talking on the phone while he rolls the ball, his attention is diluted. Some husbands and wives think they are spending time together when in reality they are only living in close proximity. They are in the same house at the same time, but they are not together. A wife who is texting while her husband tries to talk to her is not giving him quality time because he does not have her full attention. Quality time does not mean that we have to spend our together moments gazing into each other's eyes. It means that we are doing something together and that we are giving our full attention to the other person. The activity in which we are both engaged is incidental. The important thing emotionally is that we are spending focused time with each other. The activity is a vehicle that creates the sense of togetherness. The important thing about the father rolling the ball to the 2-year-old is not the activity itself, but the emotions that are created between the father and his child. Similarly, a husband and wife going running together, if it is genuine quality time, will focus not on the run, but on the fact that they are spending time together. What happens on the emotional level is what matters. Our spending time together in a common pursuit communicates that we care about each other, that we enjoy being with each other, that we like to do things together. So here's quality conversation. Like words of affirmation, the language of quality time also has many dialects. One of the most common dialects is that of quality conversation. By quality conversation, I mean sympathetic dialogue, where two individuals are sharing their experiences, thoughts, feelings, and desires in a friendly, uninterrupted context. Most individuals who complain that their spouse does not talk do not mean literally that he or she never says a word. They mean that he or she seldom takes part in sympathetic dialogue. If your spouse's Sorry guys, that's my son. If your spouse's primary love language is quality time, such dialogue is crucial to his or her emotional sense of being loved. Quality conversation is quite different from the first love language. Words of affirmation focus on what we are saying, whereas quality conversation focuses on what we are hearing. If I'm sharing my love for you by means of quality time, and we are going to spend that time in conversation, it means I will focus on drawing you out, listening sympathetically to what you have to say. I will ask questions, not in a badgering manner, but with a genuine desire to understand your thoughts, feelings, and desires. And guys, I just want to let you know that tomorrow, Lord's Will Saturday, the video will be longer because we're going to continue this. I'm going to try to finish up with the quality time and also receiving gifts. If we don't get a chance to finish the receiving gifts, we're going to read most of it. But we're going to cover a lot more tomorrow, and that video is going to be longer. So just, look out for that, for you that are following along with us in this series. Okay, so let me find where we were, guys. Hold on one second. Okay, if I'm sharing my love for you by means of quality time, and we are going to spend that time in conversation, it means I will focus on drawing you out, listening sympathetically to what you have to say. Okay, we read this. I will ask questions, not in a badgering manner, but with a genuine desire to understand your thoughts, feelings, and desires. I met Patrick when he was 43 and had been married for 17 years. I remember him because his first words were so dramatic. He sat in the leather chair in my office, and after briefly introducing himself, he leaned forward and said with great emotion, "Dr. Chapman, I have been a fool, a real fool." "What has led you to that conclusion?" I asked. "I've been married for 17 years, he said, "and my wife has left me. Now I realize what a fool I've been." I repeated my original question, "In what way have you been a fool?" My wife would come home from work and tell me about the problems in her office. I would listen to her and then tell her what I thought she should do. I always gave her advice. I told her she had to confront the problem. Problems don't go away. You have to talk with the people involved or your supervisor. You have to deal with problems. The next day, she would come home from work and tell me about the same problems. I would ask her if she did what I had suggested the day before. She would shake her head and say no. So this bubble says, learning to listen may be as difficult as learning a foreign language, but learn we must if we want to communicate love. After 3 or 4 nights of that, I would get angry. I would tell her not to expect any sympathy from me if she wasn't willing to take the advice I was giving her. She didn't have to live under that kind of stress and pressure. She could solve the problem if she would simply do what I told her. It hurt me to see her living under such stress because I knew she didn't have to. The next time she'd bring up the problem, I would say, "I don't want to hear about it. I've told you what you need to do. If you're not going to listen to my advice, I don't want to hear it." I would withdraw and go about my business. "What a fool I was," he said. "What a fool." Now I realized that she didn't want advice when she told me about her struggles at work. She wanted sympathy. She wanted me to listen, to give her attention, to let her know that I could understand the hurt, the stress, the pressure. She wanted to know that I loved her and that I was with her. She didn't want advice. She just wanted to know that I understood. But I never tried to understand. I was too busy giving advice, and now she's gone. Patrick's wife had been pleading for quality conversation. Emotionally, she longed for him to focus attention on her by listening to her pain and frustration. Patrick was not focusing on listening, but on speaking. He listened only long enough to hear the problem and formulate a solution. He didn't listen long enough or well enough to hear her cry for support and understanding. So we're on page 63, guys. Many of us are like Patrick. We are trained to analyze problems and create solutions. We forget that marriage is a relationship, not a project to be completed or a problem to solve. A relationship calls for. Sorry, guys, my son sleep really wild. Sorry, guys. Okay, a relationship calls for sympathetic listening with a view to understanding the other person's thoughts, feelings, and desires. We must be willing to give advice, but only when it is requested and never in a condescending manner. Most of us have little training in listening. We are far more efficient in thinking and speaking. Learning to listen may be as difficult as learning a foreign language, but learn we must if we want to communicate love. That is especially true if your spouse's primary love language is quality time and his or her dialect is quality conversation. Fortunately, numerous books and articles have been written on developing the art of listening. I will not seek to repeat what is written elsewhere, but suggest the following summary of practical tips. So here's number 1. Maintain eye contact when your spouse is talking. That keeps your mind from wandering and communicates that he or she has your full attention. Number 2, don't listen to your spouse and do something else at the same time. Remember, quality time is giving someone your undivided attention. If you are doing something you cannot turn from immediately, tell your spouse the truth. A positive approach might be, I know you are trying to talk to me and I'm interested, but I want to give you my full attention. I can't do that right now, but if you will give me 10 minutes to finish this, I'll sit down and listen to you. Most spouses will respect such a request. Number 3, listen for feelings. Ask yourself, what emotion is my spouse experiencing? When you think you have the answer, confirm it. For example, it sounds to me like you are feeling disappointed because I forgot blank. That gives him the chance to clarify his feelings. It also communicates that you are listening intently to what he is saying. Number 4, observe body language. Clenched fists, trembling hands, tears, furrowed brows, and eye movements may give you clues as to what the other is feeling. Sometimes body language speaks one message while words speak another. Ask for clarification to make sure you know what she is really thinking and feeling. 5, refuse to interrupt. Research has indicated that the average individual listens for only 17 seconds before interrupting and interjecting his own ideas. If I give you my undivided attention while you are talking, I will refrain from defending myself or hurling accusations at you or dogmatically stating my position. My goal is to discover your thoughts and feelings. My objective is not to defend myself or to set you straight. It is to understand you. Learning to talk. Quality conversation requires not only sympathetic listening, but also self-revelation. When a wife says, I wish my husband would talk, I never know what he's thinking or feeling, she is pleading for intimacy. She wants to feel close to her husband, but how can she feel close to someone whom she doesn't know? In order for her to feel loved, he must learn to reveal himself. If her primary love language is quality time and her dialect is quality conversation, her emotional love tank will never be filled until he tells her his thoughts and feelings. Self-revelation does not come easy for some of us. We may have grown up in homes where the expression of thoughts and feelings was not encouraged but squelched. To request a toy was to receive a lecture on the sad state of family finances. The child went away feeling guilty for having the desire, and he quickly learned not to express his desires. When he expressed anger, the parents responded with harsh and condemning words. Thus, the child learned that expressing angry feelings is not appropriate. If the child was made to feel guilty for expressing disappointment and not being able to go to the store with his father, he learned to hold his disappointment inside. By the time we reach adulthood, many of us have learned to deny our feelings. We are no longer in touch with our emotional selves. A wife says to her husband, "How did you feel about what Steve did?" And the husband responds, "I think he was wrong. He should have." but he is not telling her his feelings. He is voicing his thoughts. Perhaps he has reason to feel angry or disappointed, but he has lived so long in the world of thought that he does not acknowledge his feelings. When he decides to learn the language of quality conversation, it would be like learning a foreign language. The place to begin is by getting in touch with his feelings, becoming aware that he is an emotional creature, in spite of the fact that he has denied that part of his life. If you need to learn the language of quality conversation, begin by noting the emotions you feel away from home. Carry a small notepad and keep it with you daily. 3 times each day, ask yourself, what emotions have I felt in the last 3 hours? What did I feel on the way to work when the driver behind me was riding my bumper? What did I feel when I stopped at the gas station and the automatic pump did not shut off and the side of the car was covered in gas? What did I feel when I got to the office and found that the project I was working on had to be completed in 3 days when I thought I had another 2 weeks? 66, page 66. Write down your feelings in a notepad in a word or two to help you remember the event corresponding to the feeling. Your list may look like this. So the event was a tailgater. The feelings were angry. The event was the gas station. The feelings was very upset. The event was the work project due. That's the event, and the feelings are frustrated and anxious. Do that exercise 3 times a day, and you will develop an awareness of your emotional state. Using your notepad, communicate your emotions and the events briefly with your spouse as many days as possible. In a few weeks, you will become comfortable expressing your emotions with him or her, and eventually you will feel comfortable discussing your emotions toward your spouse, the children, and events that occur within the home. Remember, emotions themselves are neither good nor bad. They are simply our psychological responses to the events of life. Based on our thoughts and emotions, we eventually make decisions. When the tailgater was following you on the highway and you felt angry, perhaps you had these thoughts. I wish he would lay off. I wish he would pass me. If I thought I wouldn't get caught, I'd press the accelerator and leave him in the twilight. I should slam on my brakes and let his insurance company buy me a new car. Maybe I'll pull off the road and let him pass. Eventually, you made some decision, or the other driver backed off, turned, or passed you, and you arrived safely at work. In each of life's events, we have emotions, thoughts, desires, and eventually actions. The expression of that process is called self-revelation. If you choose to learn the love dialect of quality conversation, that is the learning road you must follow. Dead Seas and Babbling Brooks. Not all of us are out of touch with our emotions, but when it comes to talking, all of us are affected by personality. Sorry guys. I have observed 2 basic personality types. The first I call the Dead Sea. In the little nation of Israel, the Sea of Galilee flows south by way of the Jordan River into the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea goes nowhere. It receives, but it does not give. This personality type receives many experiences, emotions, and thoughts throughout the day. They have a large reservoir where they store that information, and they are perfectly happy not to talk. If you say to a Dead Sea personality, "What's wrong? Why aren't you talking tonight?" he will probably answer, "Nothing's wrong. What makes you think something's wrong?" And that response is perfectly honest. He is content not to talk. He could drive from Chicago to Detroit and never say a word and be perfectly happy. But the other extreme is the Babbling Brook. And I think we kind of talked about this when we read his book, The 4 Seasons of Marriage, back in February or March of this year. I think we kind of read a little bit about these different personality types. Okay. On the other extreme is the Babbling Brook. For this personality, whatever enters into the eye gate or the ear gate comes out the mouth gate. And there are seldom 60 seconds between the two. Whatever they see, whatever they hear, they tell. In fact, if no one is at home to talk to, they will call someone else. "Do you know what I saw? Do you know what I heard?" If they can't get someone on the phone, they may talk to themselves because they have no reservoir. Many times a Dead Sea marries a Babbling Brook. That happens because when they are dating, it is a very attractive match. If you are a Dead Sea and you date a Babbling Brook, you will have a wonderful evening. You don't have to think, how will I get the conversation started tonight? How will I keep the conversation flowing? Oh, guys, we were able to read a lot in this video. That's amazing. We're doing great, guys. Okay. In fact, you don't have to think at all. All you have to do, and thank you, Jesus. All you have to do is nod your head and say, and she will fill up the whole evening. And you will go home saying, what a wonderful person. On the other hand, if you are a babbling brook and you date a Dead Sea, you will have an equally wonderful evening, because Dead Seas are the world's best listeners. You will babble for 3 hours. He will listen intently to you. You will go home saying, what a wonderful person. You attract each other. But 5 years after marriage, the babbling brook wakes up one morning and says, we've been married 5 years and I don't know him. The Dead Sea is saying, I know her too well. I wish he would stop the flow and give me a break. The good news is that Dead Seas can learn to talk and babbling brooks can learn to listen. We are influenced by our personality, but not controlled by it. One way to learn new patterns is to establish a daily sharing time in which each of you will talk about 3 things that happened to you that day and how you feel about them. I call that the minimum daily requirement for a healthy marriage. If you will start with the daily minimum, in a few weeks or months, you may find quality conversation, flowing more freely between you. Quality activities. In addition to the basic love language of quality time or giving your spouse your undivided attention, it is another dialect called quality activities. At a recent marriage seminar, I asked couples to complete the following sentence. I feel most loved by my husband or wife when blank. Here's the response of a 29-year-old husband who has been married for 8 years. I feel most loved by my wife when we do things together, things I like to do, and things she likes to do. We're on page 69 for you following along in the book. If you don't have the book, it's fine, because I'm still reading it to you guys and we're all reading it together, right? Okay, we talk more. We talk more. It sort of feels like we are dating again. That is a typical response of individuals whose primary love language is quality time. The emphasis is on being together, doing things together, giving each other undivided attention. Quality activities may include anything in which one or both of you have an interest. Guys, the emphasis is not on what you are doing, but on why you are doing it. The purpose is to experience something together, to walk away